Okay, good afternoon, and it's Thursday afternoon here in sunny California, and well, we're going to see if we can go in here and show you around a little bit. Yesterday, I spent some time working on the import process to make sure you can import scenes, buildings, and things that have been shared by others, and so I've helped out the menu. I've created a few new things for the media library to be able to make that really easy to find and do. I'm in the process of simplifying all the menus and checking everything and making sure everything's working. I'm trying to clean things up. I'm testing menu items. I'm seeing if they're intuitive. Whenever I run a process, I want to see where you end up at the end of the process, and if there's choices that I always do at the end of the process, I want to make sure they're readily available for you. I'm just working on the flow. I want the app to be so easy that anybody can use it, yet so comprehensive that anybody can add things to it and use them. So basically, trying to create a nice, good, sturdy framework that allows you to do whatever you want to do with it, and yet can handle a lot of stuff for you. So with that, jumping in and see if we can get some code going here and testing out some different screens. One of the things I want to test out is I have this screen here, and this one runs full page form. I think this one may only run when we're in admin mode, but let me double. In fact, I'm positive. This one only loads up in admin mode. I was first thinking that it was going to be one of those pages that show up in both, and if it turns out that we need to do one in the regular page also, we'll create a separate function for that, I guess, or I'll merge it into this function later on. But for now, we're only loading this on the admin page, so it's really not an issue. So I just confirmed that a couple minutes ago, and what's that? Yeah, oh, okay, so anything posted in there? It's showing one of his? Okay, so the auto host thing, I don't know what's going on there, or if it's the other way around. Maybe when he's on, he's showing on my screen. I don't know. Next time he posts or something, or next time he's online, I'll have to see if it is. We're playing around with some of the settings on the website for Twitch about the auto hosting and stuff, and just seeing what happens and what doesn't. So just learning, trying to figure out different areas. But we'll see. Okay, so right now, let's see if we can't break some eggs. No. I know. Okay, so let's see, where am I at now? One of the things I noticed is that when I'm on the website, notice I created a castle here in the land. I've been doing a lot of stuff. I'll show you as we go, so we can play around with some of the settings and try different things. But for now, I just want to show you that, yes, I created a huge castle, put it on this land. It works. It's totally intact. That's all good. One of the things is when I go to admin mode, I got the home screen. I can click admin mode here, and I can load up admin. But what I noticed was that I didn't put anything to go back home. So the first thing I'm going to do, play around with a little bit of the tool set here, see if I can't create a little home button there so that we can bounce back and forth between the two different sites. It's just little mild things, but tends to be a little bit of an issue if we don't have it. So first things first, I want to see where my files are on my local drive, see if I actually have them on this machine. I know, it's like flying without a net. Okay, let's see, here we go. Bum. And new menu. Okay, you know what? I do have some ideas here. One of the things I do not have set up yet is let me see if I have a mouse home button or a little menu home button created yet. It does not look like it. So we're going to see if we can't find one and put it in place. So open with paint. Let's see. Doobie-doobie-doo. Nope. Okay. Let's see if I can get a home button here. Come on, there's a home button. Okay. Uh, what I have is I've grabbed some different images from different places, and one of the things is there's a home button on this one. So I'm going to shrink that down to about yay big. I'll go a little bit bigger so we can work with it. And why did I not have all my tools going on here? Home. Okay, so home. Let's see if we can't get this ribbon to stay open. Don't know why it's doing it that way, but okay. So reset. Let's see. First, we're going to rotate it. I notice I'm using the, as simple as it gets. I'm using the. What is this app? I don't even know where I am. Okay, I need the status. I don't know why I don't have status bar. I don't know why I don't have rulers. Rulers don't matter as much. I don't need grid lines. Status bar is nice though, because the status bar will tell me when I'm about the right height. I want 32, and if I'm not mistaken, I need it to be about 28 this other direction. Or let's try 32 by 32. I'm going to shrink that big, and if I just rotate it back, this is a poor man's way of working with the different apps. I think they're 30 or 24 by 32. I'm guessing it's going to be a 32 by 32. Okay, so I'll center that in just a second. Tools, right click. Now if I take this, I can center it on the dot. Yeah, it's closer than it was. I know, I'm talking quiet. No. Okay. Okay, file. Let me double check. I just want to make sure that I don't have, or that I'm doing the same size as other items in this menu. Let's see. Where's here? This one. Properties. It is, like I suspected, it is 24 by 32. I should have went with my instinct, because now I can shrink this down a little bit here. Home, rotate, flip horizontally, and shrink that down to 24 on this side. So that's the right size that I need. I don't care if I flip it horizontally or not, since it should be kind of symmetrical. Save as. And we're going to make this one a... Oh, where am I going to put this? Let's throw them to desktop for now. We also are going to save it, just for the heck of it, as a PNG file, just because all the rest of them are. And this one is going to be menu, home, and 32. Okay, save that. I'm going to jump on my FTP real quick. I have that up on my other screen. Yes, you don't get to see my FTP sites, not that often. And basically I'm just going to put that on the server in the right place. Uploads, content, system, images, and then desktop, and there's my image. Upload. Okay, so menu home 32 PNG. Now the trick is with this one is this menu is actually being loaded by the database. So let's double check that first and see. I want to see if that first item in the menu. So we've got menu items right here. Row. I don't think, oh yeah, WalkTheWeb is the farthest to the left of the menu. And that's the item that it creates, which means I need to create a new. See, we have admin home also, which is right there. And so what we're doing is we're creating left side 990 So we're going to do nothing there. And this will be called home. Part of the main menu. Left. -990. That'll help order it and load it in the right place. Menu level is 1. Menu icon ID, there's none. We're not pulling it from the database. And here we are pulling them from here. And this one's going to be and menu and just home. And it's going to show, let's see. That one does that. Menu home goes to navigate. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to navigate and we're going to go to /, which should take us to our home page. Menu security, and notice that's a 1. 2 would be an admin page only. And we'll get the date and stuff later on, so I'm not going to worry about that right this minute. And apply that. And we've inserted one new record. Let's double check that. And here we are with home. Now, since I've put that in the menu that way, let's double check. Oh, home should show when I'm in admin mode. So yes, we do have to change that to a menu level 1, but menu security 2, because that's only going to show when we're in the admin menu. Now, let's see how well I did. And okay, so it's showing when I'm not. Oh, there it is. Okay, I'm in admin mode and it shows the menu right there. Now if I click it, does it work? Yes, it goes back to the home page and it should not show here. So, let's see. What do I have for other items that are in the menu that are only is there anything else in the menu that's only in admin mode? No. Admin home is 2. Oh, did I just put that in the wrong one? 1 is for everything. 2 is for menu security. Okay, let's look at the code. Let's find out what menu security was in the menu process. And we're going to look in the class for menus. It's just one little small area here. Okay, so we have menu security, which if it's greater than 1, if the user is not logged in and menu security is greater than 1, then it does not display it. Okay, so it's looking for a login. That's for logged in. What I want to do is basically if menu item is security equals to, that will take care of that, and we'll tell it to do that. Then what we're going to do is home is fine when you're in admin mode. That's the only time I really want to show it. Because when you're browsing the site, I guess it's okay to show all the time, isn't it? It's just when you're in admin mode. It reloads your home page, blah, 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 blah. I'm trying to decide if that's the way I want it to be. So sometimes it's a matter of not if or if, what it's doing, but should it. Well, let's go greater than 1 on that. That's fine. Let's put this here. It should be before that, so it's like in the order of those 3 items so that you can go to admin mode, but you can go to home, you can go to admin mode, or you can go to WalkTheWeb. Home would be No, see, it just doesn't make sense. I only want it to be there when I'm in admin mode so that I bounce back to home. So what I'm going to do is if that equals 2, and we're gonna do some other things. We're gonna say, see, that's not aware of what page I'm on. So I would need it to check which page I'm currently on, which is in WalkTheWeb page name. So if I check if WalkTheWeb page name equals admin.php, and we're going to call it security menu level equals 3. Security menu level equals 3, then style equals display inline block and visible. Otherwise, it's going to be hidden, and we should now go into the database and change that line item to 3. So now we have 3 defined areas. And the other piece I need to do, let's first test it, see that I've got it right. Okay, we have, okay, so we are in the community, and wow. Okay, we just chopped off something else in our menu because we have small island community in that, but we've lost the other 2 items. So what are the other 2 items? The other 2 items are the other 2 that disappeared just now are WalkTheWeb, which is menu item 1. Oh, 1 should be showing. What did I do? Oh, I know what I did. Hang on. If user ID is empty and menu security is 2, or in community mode there. Oh, did I do that backwards? Is that should have only hid the ones that are menu security 2. So why, if page name equals admin, we're not an admin page, so that isn't even effect. Oh, well, wait a minute. That is that my else statement. Should have been else if menu security equals 3. That would do it. Okay. Helps if I remember not to blank out everything. Okay, so now we have, let's see how we're doing. We should have a few links down here. Nope, I just wiped them all out. Menu security equals 3, then hidden, otherwise. What am I doing? Am I knocking out the style of that one by doing if page name equals that and menu security equals 3? Why? Okay, let's see. How bad did I break everything? Did you ever have a day that just doesn't want to cooperate? Okay, so basically I'm checking to see if page name equals that, or if the menu else, oh, helps if I type if, helps, that would make a difference. Otherwise it's going to error right at that spot and not get any farther. So let's see, that should fix that part. Yes, we have the menu the way we want it. We're currently not in admin mode, so we have the menu item for admin. We have these different sites that we're walking closest to, tells us the community and the building. And then if I go to admin mode, and when I'm in admin mode, yes, now we have the little home icon so you can get back to home like I wanted to do, and select a 3D item to edit from the admin menu above. So here's your items. You have buildings, communities, and things. And we have our new thing, which is the media library. Here, this is pretty cool. Let me show you. Oh, you know, while I'm doing all this, I like leaving this part open just because if I do see an error, I want to be able to fix it or track it down where it's going on. But look, media library, you can come in here and we can say WalkTheWeb downloads. And look, you can search and find your communities now in here. There's not a whole lot to choose from, but I have some. And when you see something you like, you can click a button and it'll download it. Otherwise, we have buildings and we have things. Let me go. Let's search for some chairs. Let's see what we have. Oh, let's grab a rocking chair just to do it. So I'm going to select that and see we're going through the process. We have the install process correct and it grabbed it that quick. And depends how big the item is to how long it takes to download. Open your new thing in the editor, continue searching for downloads, or close WalkTheWeb downloads. Let's go ahead and open it in the editor. I don't think I've tested that button yet. Okay, and I need to adjust the position that you start in these scenes, and guess what? It did not load it, so let's find out if we even have it loaded. Select thing. We'll go through some of these things, but some of these were built a long time ago, and see, it even thinks it has the rocking chair. The other tools that help you, we do have developer tools, current meshes. Besides the avatar, what do we have loaded? We have connecting grids, and we do not have. Okay, I don't want to dig in here on this because I've been testing so many things. We have action zones, and person is not in the action zone. Okay, but the action zones, are they loaded? Okay, we're not in zone, but they must be. Well, I didn't check the status to see if they're loaded. Okay, so we do have action zones though, so that's a good sign. Means they did load up. We have the connecting grids, and okay, we'll track that down shortly, but we do have those loading to the database. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is let's fix that menu item in the actual database in the load process, because what will happen is we're going to tell it to load and it's going to go, no, you did not do this step. So I'm going to grab one of these. We're going to go into our code, the table defs, and basically right here we have it loading the database with the menu options. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a 14th menu item here, and we're going to say this one is blank. We don't need a name for that particular item. You know what? I will make it menu home icon, and we have it's not animations, it is home. It's in the main. It's going to be on the left hand side. We're going to put it at, instead of 990, I want it 995, so that if for whatever reason we change something later and we want to see the admin home and the home, it still is on the left side of it. Okay, one there, content system here. We are going to menu home. That's the new icon we just put in place. The function that we want to do is navigate, and we're going to make that menu security 3, timestamp. The place we're navigating is as easy as a backslash to go to the home page. Okay, so now that is going to bring in the other thing. I knew I had to check the end of the row here. At the end of the row, there should be a comma because we're putting in one more record after that. And then we have the semicolon at the end. Okay, so that should insert all those items into the table without any problem. And we also get our user ID and everything in place on that. Okay, so now we're going to create it with that menu item in place. And the next thing I want to do to test everything to date is, first of all, we are going to, oh, you know what? I haven't reconnected to the database, so we're going to do that real quick. Come up here, set default schema, and we're going to take these tables and we are going to drop all 25 tables. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Here they go. And with the tables gone, we're going to start the whole process over again. Come here. And here we go. Brand new install, starting from scratch. And I'm trying really hard not to move my mouth while I type a password. I know, I'm just kidding. 3D test site, we'll keep it consistent, we'll just call it that for now. And save. Now we're going to pick a place. I'm going to stick with that one for now during the testing process. We'll test some others out afterwards, but there is one piece I know that I need to add to those other sites. So I just want to make sure that we're in good shape on that. And it's fetching uploaded files and images, going through the process. There we go. Jeopardy. No. Okay, now we're doing the buildings. I'm going to go ahead and select a castle. And we're loading right in on that. So, and loading the uploaded files and images, getting those in place. So far, no errors in the column. That's a good sign. And now we're loading up, and it's saying, okay, you have not picked an avatar. Loads the avatars. I haven't set up anything to preload those yet, so I'll have to experiment with that later on and see what we can do. Okay, so we get these all in place, and we grab an avatar. And of course, I always like to change the colors up a little bit just so that we have something better to look at. Let's go with my typical blue shirt. And bottoms. I like putting a green tint on them just because it actually ends up being more of a solid black with a color mixed in with it. Don't know why. I guess it's my screen. But yeah, either way, it ends up working a little bit. Tinting down just a touch. Okay. And display name, let's get my name in here. Okay. Now a couple things I noticed. I set the display name and did all those other pieces. We can even go into the animations. Let's set us up with a nice, let's go Happy Walk. I always like that one. And let's choose a couple optional gestures, add animation, and we're going to go with the simple wave. We're going to go with over here. And we're going to go with, I know, I like my victory dance. So, victory gesture. And finally, let's pick some type of dance. Just because you gotta have some. Okay, robot hip hop. There we go. Okay, so we're done doing those steps. And close the avatar settings. And the first thing we get is we're inside of our castle. Now, notice we have the castle. It's in place. The whole thing worked. It loaded. Everything looks a little okay. We got a couple things out of place in this scene, but that's the scene, not the image. Okay, first thing I'm going to show you from here is if you click on here, you can actually go directly to the edit screen and edit these particular items. One of the things is I didn't tell it to update this part here, so it doesn't know I'm logged in, even though I technically was logged in. So now I'm logged in. That's a little piece I have to still fix and still do, but I'm going to do some work on those pieces anyway. But if I click on this edit community down here, then it'll take me to that community with it already loaded, and I can edit it. So it makes it easy to bounce back and forth. One of the things I'm going to do, okay, let's get his animations going. There we go. Now I'm going to run out here real quick and I'm going to get out on the street a little bit just so I can look back at the scene. And I'm going to show you a couple things. First thing is, from here I can stand wherever I want to stand, and if I go to options and settings on the community, each one of the community buildings and things all have this, but you can actually click on set starting position and use current position, and now every time I load this scene, which I can even just I'm just going to click F5 and go ahead and reload that scene, this gets it the starting place for each person that works with it. So isn't that easy? This was running through the whole install process and we're jamming now. Okay, so notice it set my place where I want to do it. Now another thing I can do, if I right click on the building, for example, I can sit here and just move the building over. I can put it where I want it. I can also rotate the building. That's kind of crazy, but you can actually do rotations of objects. And the final part is you can also scale it. So if I come up here, I can make one humongous building, and now basically, as you can see when we look around, this building is massive. That's a little bigger than I want it to be, so I'm going to go with 1 point. I played around with this earlier, so I kind of got an idea of how big I want it to be. But if I change these values, I can change it to like 1.6. Hey, if you're just joining us, we're getting ready to release open source 3D internet where you can create your own buildings and scenes and everything else using my CMS. You can have a 3D website up and going in less than 5 minutes. And so if you haven't yet, follow so you'll know when in this month that I'll be releasing the open source software. There's all kinds of cool features, and we'll be going through them as we get closer to releasing. But that is going to happen sometime this month. So as you can see, we're playing around with the different scenes and seeing what kind of stuff we can build and create, and just some good cool stuff to mess around with. Right now I'm just kind of, let's go about there. Okay, so once you set your different building the way you want it to be, just click save and it's good to go. This, I noticed the other day, this driveway for whatever reason, or this entryway, is off-centered. I may have moved it for whatever, but it's actually not lined with the it's not in line with the actual curbs and things. So I'm going to kind of slide it over just a touch here. And I overshot by 1. Let's see, it looks like it's right there. Okay, so now we have saved that. And notice we have our big castle to play around with and mess around. So as you can see, we have a castle. We created that scene in less than 5 minutes. We have our avatar. You have all kinds of avatar cool settings to play around with. This just gets you a good start. Then basically, of course, you can do your own buildings from here. You can add items. You can cut items out of other items. There's all kinds of cool stuff you can do. When you edit a building, if you right-click anything in your scene, you actually edit that item. So what you saw me doing was, look, if I right-click on this, it grabs the entryway path. If you click over here, I grab the buildings, so I'm actually looking at the building's position and stuff. There's some advanced options. I can tell it how to load things. Open building in editor, so if I want to change something in the building itself, all I do is click there and it'll take me right to it and open it up. Notice you can also click down here and you can view the building, or you can view the community. So I tried to make it where you can bounce around from one thing to the next fairly easy. We can also edit the landscape and scene. For example, sky settings. Let's see, which direction here? Oh, I noticed my color paths over here didn't disappear, so I'll have to play around with those. But, okay, so we have day scene, we have a sunrise, so we can actually change the scene so that it's more of a sunrise. If I move my mouse over the screen, and then it has keyboard controls, mouse controls, and it has touch controls. So works in all devices. And there's my sunrise back over there. Or let's do sunset, because that's in front of the castle instead of behind it. And there it is over there. The other thing we can do is we can fine tune and actually adjust like where we want the position to be. So I can just move the sun a little bit. There we go. Now it's right at sun's, a little bit more into the sky. Save the sky and it's ready to go. And now anytime somebody visits this website, basically they're going to get the whole scene with that in place. So we're debugging stuff, and notice it went to the starting point that I just set. So as we're walking around, you actually get the nice cool setting. You get the sunrise over there that we just changed. The building is nice and big where we just put it. You can look all around. We'll work on, there's a lot of settings with the way the movement happens and the way you can get around. So we'll play around with those and try to make them as free and flowing as you can. Also get it where we get the adjustments going so that you can adjust the speed of how fast he walks and turns, the rotation rates, and all the other goodies. Okay, so yes, that takes you through creating a building and enlarging a castle in this case. But yeah, pretty cool stuff, huh? So once we get here, you have your admin mode. And let's see. So I'm kind of going through some of the admin mode stuff, and I want to make sure that different pieces are working. I need to troubleshoot now and find out why when we loaded a thing, it didn't actually load on the screen. So we're gonna do a little troubleshooting. It could have been if the images didn't come down, everything else could have been in place. So right now, notice that I have from doing the install process, I can go to select communities, and I have one community. I can create another community just as easy as add new 3D community, and you can choose if you want to choose kind of a blank street, or do you want to have something else here that has more parts to it. You can do that. Let's see, we also have buildings, and our selected building, we have the castle home that I already added. Oh, by the way, when you have something like this, okay, so let's select the castle. So we load it up in our editor. And now, once I load the castle, like I said, I can still walk outside and decide when I load the castle by itself, where is my starting point? So basically I can come out here, I can say, okay, when I load the castle, I want to start from the building, I want to start over here where I can see a certain door or a certain way to go or something. So I can options and settings, and I can set starting position, use current position. Now what happens is from that angle, that's where I'll start every time I load this building. And just to test that, I'm going to reload this page just by hitting F5. Since I'm going through and testing stuff, I'm kind of marking them off my mental list as I go. Notice, okay, first things first, it did not do it. So there's one of the things that I'm going to be checking into here. Let's add it back to our list. Building is not... Building start position's not loading. We'll check those because first thing I want to see is, did the values actually change when I set it outside, and then then did it load it or not when it went there. Okay, so the other pieces that I want to double check about a building is, first of all, notice we have shadows on the ground, so we do have shadows on. There's a handful of different things. One of them is I can load the building, I can run over here, I can watch this. When I turn towards the building, I know that I have a loading zone inside. Notice inside the door, it's a pretty empty room. As I get about right there, all of a sudden the stairs show up. And in this case, I created a simple slot ramp to go up the stairs. So a little bit of stuff. We can go all the way up the stairs. And there we are. Okay, so that all works. The other thing is, under options and settings, is you can 3D building information. So if I change something here, we have 3D castle home. I can call that castle blah, blah. Castle Dishno, it's mine, blah, 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 whatever. I can call it whatever I want. And when I save the settings, okay, and now this building is called that. Okay, another little thing is it should have automatically updated this down here on that process. And, you know, of course, this is the little details that make it all complete. Update menu name. Update the menu name. Okay, so we'll make sure that it does that. Okay, now one of the things is I have a feeling that one's updated because of the list of what gets updated when you load things. It's just a little trivial thing, but I'll make sure that that happens. When you're browsing the site, it's actually dynamic and creates and uploads as you walk around. So these are the kind of things I'm locating to be able to find, to be able to fix. When we're editing, there's a couple other things we can do. 3D building snapshot. Okay, so this is one of the pieces I wanted to test out. I'm going to take a shortcut. I'm going to jump out the window and off the ledge and run forward a little bit, turn, and I'm going to back up a little bit. I want to see as much of it as I can. Let's angle our view up. Get the whole place in there, kinda. Let's get up by the top. There we go. Let's go back just a little bit farther. I'm making sure that the whole thing is in the snapshot. Okay, so we've done that. And now that it's on the thing, I can say set default snapshot. Let's see if this works because I made a few changes about it and I'm not sure. I think it erred. Okay, so those are three things I just tested that I broke that I have to fix. I have a feeling this one has to do with there's a setting of how I pass the data to the form, and I'm going to make sure that it's working correctly. So let's see. Okay. I already know what's wrong with that one. I need to fix it, but snapshots. Let's just put snapshot, not recording. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to set that up to be on the file system instead of loading it to the database, and I want to just switch that around a little bit so it does it. Okay, so just found three things. It's time to get busy, start fixing things, because finding things that are wrong are one thing, fixing them is a whole nother. So let's see, start position is not loaded. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to look in the tables, refresh all, and in buildings, there's only one building, and notice the building has a position right here. I'm going to start where I am right now. We're going to come over here and say set starting position, use current position. And that says starting position saved. So the JavaScript part of that works. Now notice it's a negative 146, negative 97. Refresh that, and we have a new position. Okay, so the position is reading into the database, but what we're not getting is the position out when we're trying to browse the site. And that has to do with the install starting process. There's a piece here that loads up some default values. In fact, it is get scene settings. And from there, it's going to stringify and it's going to bring back those results. So the function itself is right here. We set some starting position values, position, rotation, and scaling. And then there's a selection of different pieces that it does based on that particular item. In this case, I want to check because, let's see, there's different ones, like if the community in a thing is listed, or if the building in a thing is listed. If the community by itself is, then this is the one that we're using for that. And I want to see the building one. First thing I want to make sure is that, copy that. Okay, so this is passing the values, but notice this part right here. Okay. It never wrote the pack because of this right here. This took care of communities, but it did not take care of if we were loading things on a building or a thing level. So what I'm going to do is we're going to, first of all, the result set includes building, community, and it should include thing. We're gonna add thing to it, just because you could have a thing ID going there. So we're going to add thing here, and we're just going to put thing there. We already know this process isn't going to run when it's doing that particular thing. The building ID, building name, building access is what I'm passing. We're going to have more than that because we're also going to have publish name, building ID, community ID. Notice the publish domain, publish name are part of this. I'm kind of putting a couple pieces in place before I copy and paste this. It's setting a sky and everything, which we're not doing. Okay, so. And what we're going to do is, we're almost there. Bear with me. I'm kind of making sure all the various pieces are in place of what we're going to do. How much of this do I actually need from start location is there. Community info is going to be there. Since I'm already running a process where I'm checking the community here, there's the building, there's the community, notice. I think I can streamline this a little bit instead of doing this particular way of pulling the information. Well, that gets the community, but if I set up building info before this, I can pull it when I'm pulling the building but before, or it can be blank and we can package them all together and kick them out here. So what I need to do, I'm going to move things around a little bit. See, it's saying if it's a community, it's going to do this process. That takes us all the way to here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and move it outside of there. There's a method to my madness. Because all of them need that to come back regardless. So the thing is, these pieces are coming from different places based on what it's doing. So I'm going to take those to the head of the class, top of this position, where we're doing all this nice stuff, and we're going to say, we're going to define them all here. So we have domain, and then we can set them, but we can still pull them and they'll still be in our end results. So we're going to have domain, this position, scaling and rotation, and start location are all part of they're all self-contained because the values all came from before we did this last piece, so I'm going to put those there. And next we have building info, community info, and there should be one called thing info that we do not have here yet. So we're going to create 2 more. Oops. Helps if I do the right one. Let's do it. I moved the order on purpose just so that I could do this. And we're getting this straightened out here. Okay, so building community thing. And now I want to, I'm going to make sure that we have these particular 3 items up at the start so that if I drop in their values from wherever, at least they will always be there. So come up here. I'm going to get things from queries we already ran instead of having to run new queries each time. So we have community access, copy that, and 2 more. This one's going to be building info. And the last one's going to be thing info. And now, based on those designs, we're going to populate them. Okay, we want, I'm going to take community info, and community info I'm pulling here because I get the domain info too. Domain info, publish domain, community name, gravity. I'm going to move that afterwards, but right now what I'm going to do is we're going to grab community info. I'm just going to copy that for a second. See, depending on the combination of which pieces they pick, these items have all been called already. So if community is not empty, I'm calling community here. I don't want to, that's if you have access to edit them. Here's where it actually starts. So if this is correct, the position is coming from things. And that means they've listed all 3. So what I need is in all 3 of them, we have the position coming from that. Then we're going to do some calculations based on building. Then we come down here and do some calculations based on if the community was set. There's a whole bit that's going to happen when we talk about that. So I'm not going to worry about that so much at the moment. But if I'm calling the community piece, then there's no reason I can't get all these pieces in place here and actually return the values for the community at this time instead of just getting, oh, that's connecting grids. Well, that doesn't do me a lot of help. What was I doing? Okay, so never mind, I forgot. Those are all through connecting grids because it's one connecting grid labeled on top of the next one. And that one is doing the same thing, connecting grids. Okay, hang on. That's why I started doing this piece. Okay, so community, and we get community info here. Okay, and after community info, we do. Okay, so community info is getting populated here if community is not blank. I'm getting those values there. That doesn't matter. Okay, so then I need to check if building is. We're going to do something similar, but it's going to be it's going to be easier. Okay, so copy that. We'll drop it here. If building ID is not empty, then we're going to get everything from, we don't need these values here, everything from buildings where building ID equals building ID. Okay, that'll get us that piece of it, and then we're going to populate those, which is fine. I have a mix if this piece here, if it loaded a community, means I'm landing at the community level, and basically I don't need the building level of these items. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to purposely, instead of, well, building name there, and then that should take care of those. I'm going to ask it here if count of z domain info, oops, did I hit page up? Okay, z domain info equals 0, means that we don't have anything in that domain. Then we're going to go to here and do that. Get rid of that. Okay, so this particular one, what I'm doing is I'm checking to see if the domain info has been set, which means that the community level above would have done it, and we don't need it in this section because we only need one of these. And if it's been done up here, then I don't need to load it for the building level. But if there is no community and we loaded just a building, then these items need to be set. So that's what that part is. And in here, I'm going to do the building array, because that is the one that I'm trying to load. And it's building ID, building name. Okay, so we're good with those items. There's some other items that I'm going to add to that, but I don't think I need them at this part. So, okay, we're going to leave it at that for now. Okay, that gets the building info. And then we have, the next one is going to be if we're loading a thing. So let's grab these settings, copy that, drop it here. And this particular one, everywhere that says build, we're going to change that to thing. And just going down the list, things, thing ID. Okay, scan it with my eyes. See if we can catch whatever's going to catch us off guard here. And same thing, if domain info is not set yet, then it's going to be that we're editing a thing, and we should load up those particular items. In this case, we're also loading the thing info section. And that's going to pull that value. And the thing name there. Publish domain. Okay, so there's more items that we'll pull from this section based on if we're doing something with it or not. But for now, let's start with the basics. We did go through and add gravity to each one of these recently. So we're not pulling gravity or anything like that yet. Okay, so I think, therefore I am. Okay, so I think that takes care of that piece of it. Now that I've done it this way, we should get past our first thing, which is if I reset this building here, if I didn't break the code somewhere. So does the page load? First of all, it does, and notice I am standing out in front. Yay, and it's about the right position where I was located. The other thing is, notice that the angle of attack of where I was looking at the scene did not come up right. So there is still some things about that. See, I should have been looking up at about, an angle about like that or something that I had set before. I'll get to those things. Right now, that's not as critical. I'm more interested to find out why it's nighttime. If we loaded this scene, we should have had with our building, it didn't give us a JavaScript error, so we didn't see any error there per se. But when we load the scene, we should get, oh, I know why. Because it expected some values, and the defaults for these items are basically very, very, the turbidity, all these, the texture for the ground, all these things are set here and brought forward. So on this, in the domain info is gravity. Okay, so we do have gravity on each three of those. Okay, so thing info and building info. What I need to do is I need to set up some dummy values based on these settings. Because community info loaded, but for building info and thing info, we basically didn't have those settings set. So it didn't know what to do. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to look in, we'll get a copy and paste from the quickest, easiest part I can think of, which is, since the community does have all these settings in place, we're going to come in here. We have a texture ID. Texture ID is not going to be the same texture ID as everything else. Okay, what we need is we need a texture ID based on uploads. No, because that changes all the IDs except for the basic ones. Okay, thinking ahead, in our table defs, there's one called it's dirt. We're looking for the dirt. Okay, so we put dirt in here, and it should be original, this one. It should be this number right here. And that should give us something. We're going to know this really quick as we do this, but we'll take what we can get. We're going to put that in its place. See, these are coming from the table of the definition of what we're doing anyway, so we should, those are uploads that we put in there by default. So basically, this particular item shouldn't be a problem. We should actually have this in stock. We should have this in our stock library just by downloading the site. So we're going to put that path here. Then DOM ID, we're actually not using those right now, so we're not trying to load any particular DOM or path. Work on that later on at another time, but the other piece is sky inclination. These are just raw settings, so see, we changed that sky. We changed it. I want the default values for these items, which we can find in not object definitions, but our constructor. In here, we have all those values right here. Inclination is 0, luminance 1, azimuth is 0.25. So let's see, 0, 1, 0.25. Let's do a couple of these at a time. So this will be, basically it's going to be noon when you're working on a building. Luminous will be 1. Azimuth will be 0.25. And then Raleigh is also 0.25, then 10, then 0.8, and 0.005. So, okay, 0.25, 10, 8. .25. This one's actually 10. Then we have 0.8. 0.8. Okay, so, and the last one was, I think it's 0.005. Yeah, 0.005. So let's throw that on here. 0.005. Okay, so by adding these fields, we're going to test my theory that that's all it wanted, was to make sure that it had values coming out based on this part right here. And we're going to put that there. And I need a comma right there. And let's see now if that fixes the initial stuff. We'll know here in a second. Otherwise, I got to check the paths of where they're reading those values in. And in this case, we still have darkness and we still have no ground. So, oh, we have light, but no ground. That's funny. Let me see, past the horizon? Nope, we still see darkness. Okay, so lights are on, but nobody's home. No. Okay, so let's double check where we're getting those values. I have a feeling that we should have been reading in the default values. We really shouldn't have to add them here. But before I take them off, let's double check where we read in these values, which is going to be okay, so they're going to be read in, okay, right here. This is what I want. It grabs those settings for the scene and it brings it in, and then when we're loading the scene, not in admin, not in basic, it should be basic modes, no, in this common file right here. Nope, not common, it's in the core. Here we go. This is where we bring in those values. So, let's see, domain. Oh, it's all looking under community info, that's why. I'm going to change that because we're not going to see those items in the community info for the sky and ground textures. We're going to be seeing those more from the from whatever section loaded. So in this particular case, it actually makes more sense that these items are part of the domain info section of whichever one loaded, because if you load the okay, we're going to put these right here because then they load with the domain info, which is going to be whichever greater one is set. So in this case, I'm going to copy that, and that's if you're using a thing, and if domain info is not set, then we're going to have it here, which is there. And then finally, if the real values come out, then we're going to grab these and we're going to put those right here. Also, we've already fixed this other thing, so building is not needed within the community one. Okay, so that takes it to there. Now these are part of domain info section and not part of the individual buildings things. And okay, so we need to take this off here for building info, and we need to take it off of here for thing info. And I think let's make sure we didn't screw this one up too. Okay, so that one, I did keep that there, and we did, oh, it's here, okay. So building info access is right there. We're good to go. Thing access is right here. And it looks like I have all of them in place. So now that I've done it this way, consistency. Okay, so since I've done it this way, now it's part of domain info section, and when I run this piece down here, and notice there's domain info section is here. All we have to do is change this right here to that. Okay, so now we should have it. I think we've solved that problem. And there we are. We have some ground. We have a building, and here comes our sky. When the building loads, there it comes. We have daylight. Yay, fixed the problem. That one's good. We can mark that off our list. We now have a building with a ground underneath it. Yay! Simple things, simple things, simple things. We'll take it. Okay, so now fix that one. That was, one of our little things. We fixed the building start position was not loading. Now it is. Rename building, update menu name. Okay, so when I rename the building, I'm going through a process. Okay, let's go to get a couple of our screens out of the way here that we're done using. Okay, we fixed our menu item there. And we have admin. We're going to be using that screen. So, and share webs are done. Common will be somewhere digging in there. Okay, kind of for now I'm leaving that one open. Okay, so cleaned up a little bit. Now, when I run the process to update the name, what I'm actually running is, well, let me dig in and show you where it's at. Admin menu, and then there's a handful of different screens here. The easiest way to show you is this. So, options and settings, 3D building information. So when I do 3D building name here, and I change something, notice it's whatever name it is down there. We need to make it so that as soon as we change it, you click Save Settings, and it updates this also down below. So we know that we're getting our name has been accepted and added. So first things first, we're going to find that section. It would be 3D building name. Okay, so it's not in there. Find in files. What it is the section in the menu actually has a page, publish, no, building, hey, there it is. Okay, so in our building form, this is the page that we're actually seeing when we are running this screen right here. When we load it, let me show you. If I look for the heading that loads it, it shows me all the right places. Okay, so what happens is we tell it to load that. It actually connects to its own buildings in the connect files, so it grabs the buildings and it's looking for all of our buildings and it reloads them, open building form, and when it hits the right one, so this refreshes our building form too, but when it hits the right one, which means the building ID equals the building ID you're looking for, then it will load the settings, including the building name from the database. Okay, so from the JSON script that it sends over by that connect string. So it's getting it from the database ultimately. So when we load that, it pulls in the latest name and then shows us the page on the form. And there's a couple little settings it does for some buttons and things, and it shows it on the page. Okay, once we have that all set, it also did a little loading screen when it was loading. So that stuff all is part of that process that I just showed you. Now, when we get this whole thing set and we come down here and click Save Settings, it runs a process called admin menu item select, and it puts this item in there. When it goes there, it looks to see what the inner HTML on the item is, and then it looks for that menu item. So if I search for save settings, and notice that it has a commented out 5, that's showing me it's menu item number 5. And I can have things that say save settings and it's 10 different menus, but each one has their own process they have to run because of this little hidden piece on there. It was a little thing I came up with when I first designed it, and it seems to have held on pretty well. Now when I run it, I get this case select statement, which hides the main menu, submit building form, and then shows me the main menu that you've just saved and closed out of. So submit building form, and notice that we're sending in a value of 1, so that's where we're going to go next. I'm going to locate that, and I'm just kind of tracking you down through the process just so you can see how to find your way around and how to dig in, getting to different places. So case equals 1, this is what we're looking at. There's not a whole lot more about that. We're just making sure that the value for that is set. And we come in here. Okay, we are now setting the new, basically based on those blank, the fields in the form, we're setting it in the array under buildings. Now we're going through those pieces, and then that's another part that's stored in the building molds instead of the other part. So a couple little pieces, there's one in the connecting grids, and then we do the request and we save it to the database. So one of the things I want to insert here is if we've changed the name. So when we've changed the name, this is where we're setting it to the actual building info right here, which is where we're pulling those values. So under here, I want it to go and I want it to set this value right here to that same thing. Easiest way to do that is if we click this button up here to select an element, we can actually come down here and select this item and see that it is show building name div, and then it shows the name within that div. So I can grab that name, copy that, and from here I can say dget, which is my short version of document, get element by ID, and inner HTML equals, I'm used to a different keyboard, so I keep bouncing around. Every time I go to click something, I'm hitting the wrong key. And I'll put something there in a second. What we're going to put there is I'm going to copy and paste the name exactly as you typed it here. We're going to go ahead and paste it there. So that'll give us immediately, when you change the name, that'll give us the name in the lower region on the menu bar. Okay, so let's test that out. We're going to load the page so we get the latest script. Let's leave console open so we can see if there's any errors. So I called it Castle Dishno, and I'm going to come in here to options and settings, building information. It loads up the page, whatever I had put there. I'm going to call it Castle Testing. Oops, helps if I could type. Okay, so Castle Testing. When I say save settings, notice immediately down on the bottom, Castle Testing did update. So we can knock another little thing off our list here. And that's the whole point. Knock another thing off the list. Okay. And I'm going to say, right when we're doing this part, submit building form. I'm going to tell you, there's another one. Find all. Oops, I didn't mean submit building. I'm going to say find, and I'm going to say submit building form. I'm going to submit thing form. And the reason I'm going to do that is because it has a very, very, very similar structure to what we just did. And also, when you're editing a thing, then it's in that exact same blank. So even though it says show building name, it's actually the item you're editing. That's the building level when you have a community building, and then thing kind of level. So I'm going to copy this line. Then we'll go to the form here, and notice we're going to see something that looks familiar. No, we didn't. Why didn't we see something that looks familiar? Oh, in things. Oh, we're only updating the thing name. This one, I have a lot less items. This particular one, we didn't even reload the list of things. Okay. Well, for now, I'm going to fix this piece by just making sure that it sets in the menu. We're fixing one thing at a time. And we're going to grab the thing name and we're going to put it down there so that when you change it, it does the same thing. We'll revisit the rest of this shortly. This is not something I'm going to blow off. It's something that I'll fix. But there's one reason we updated one from the database and then did this one from here. So we'll figure out why later on. Texture backup, we don't even need that piece anymore. Okay, because I'm not actually clearing anything. That part is not part of this submit anymore. We actually do not need that piece. Not right now, we don't. Okay, so like I said, I'm cleaning out things as I find them and as I decide we need to do. Okay, we have the thing name. We required, okay. It's just telling us it's required and doing some validation. If everything goes well, then it puts it here, and we're good to go. Okay, so next, that takes care of that one. And finally, the other one we're going to do is we know that if we change the community name, we're going to get the same kind of access or issue. So I'm going to do a find and submit community form. We'll just find files, that way we get them all. And go to that process. And this one is a little more robust than the other one that we just saw. We have our community name, we're setting it there. We're going to put this here, and we're going to get the community name and place it there. And the last thing is, it is no longer the show building name. I'm guessing it's called show community name if I was anything consistent. But it's going to be this name right here. So just to do it, show community name, it's right there. We'll copy that, jump back to the page, and now we've forced it to update the menu right when we do those pieces. Okay, so just a little bit of cleanup there. Like I said, trying to troubleshoot things as I see them, fix the different areas, and keep on going forward. One of the other things that I have not set well yet is if I come in here and load the page from scratch, notice how in the bottom corner of the screen, oh, it did load a dish now. Did I fix that? Oh, okay, so it loads my ID when it goes that far. But during the install process, it didn't update those items. I need to investigate that a little bit, so we're going to do a little bit of playing around with that and see if we can't get it where it changes that name down there and make sure it updates it as you go. The other part is we have some cleanup to do in the, well, we have some cleanup to do. With that said, there's a couple different places where cleanup needs to happen. One of them is when you change your avatar username, there's display name, there's avatar display name, I had originally integrated it with WordPress, so it was grabbing me a nice name and a display name from there. I have all of these various pieces, and technically the only one I care about is what your user is using. So what your avatar is using, because that's what you're going to see in the scene. That's what we're going to display for other people to see when you're walking around. So we kind of need to do a little bit of a search, find out where the different ones are playing in, and kind of condense them into the one that's attached to the avatar. Now, mind you, if you come in anonymous, I still know your user by your user ID and everything else. But well, no, I don't have your ID unless you actually log in. But so the anonymous you get the anonymous avatar and you get the anonymous walking around in the scenes. But when you need to go in here and when you log on, you should get the login name of the avatar that you're currently using. Later on, we'll switch it where you can actually switch back and forth between avatars and have different ones per scene that you're in. So like if I go to a medieval one, I may be a knight. But then if I go to one where it's in space, I may be an astronaut. I want to make it where you can pick your avatar different for each place that you go. So with that in mind, we want to give it a lot of flexibility with how the avatars pull up and which one you're using at any time. So there is a difference between your user and your username versus your avatar and your avatar name. Okay, so with that, notice if I click this, both those say the same thing right now. I need one of them to be my user ID, and then I need the other one to always be the avatar ID that I'm doing. So if I'm running anonymous at the time, it can say anonymous or, in that menu. Otherwise, I want it to actually say the one I'm on. So let's start with, if I log out, okay, so I get my default logged out avatar. It says login. If I push it, I get this stuff. Okay, everything looks good on that piece. Oh, wait a minute, what's that? Okay, so that's all fine. You can log in or you can create my account. We're good on those pieces. I also don't have this written yet. So if you click forget your password, it's going to another site. It's not even the right place right now. So that's another piece that I need to work on. You know what? I'm going to take a 5-minute break before we go on to that part. So I just want to refill my coffee and do a couple more things. But I will be back in 5. Okay, I'm back. Thanks for bearing with me on that little break. Okay, so going forward from here, first thing I want to do is let's play around with some of these things in the login process. Let's fix a few things. Let's say I come in here and I go, ooh, I forgot my password. I need to be able to click that button and it sends out an email to your current ID on file that that you need to log in. So I need to forget my password. I could say forget my login and then have it where you can get your password or your ID or whatever based to your email. We need a couple things in there. So I'm going to say forgot my login. I'm going to change it to that, and then we're going to play around. We're going to give it a page that it goes to and start working with those areas. Okay, so the first thing I want it to do, let's get out of that area because it's not in the admin menu. And this particular one, we're no longer in the building. We have left the building. Elvis has left the building. Okay, so common code, we're probably going to be working in there, so I'm not going to bother closing that. And if I go into menu, one of the sections down in here, oh, by the way, just a little quick peek. Notice these are all just remarked out. We have WebVR, Oculus, Vibe, Windows, Gear VR, Daydream, and Generic. So those are a couple ones that Babylon supports that we will turn on as we double check them in the code. So just so you know, there are more in the way. We do have all these other type of headsets supported by Babylon. So we'll get there. We'll get there. Cool. Okay. Let's see. Where are we now? We have in this section down here. Okay, that's the avatar one. That's the multiplayer one. Shadows, graphics. I should have just started from the top. Menu controls, menu help. Okay, here's a couple different things that have to do with the login. First of all, menu profile is this part. So we are dealing with the menu logged in, menu login, menu register, and those are the three different sections we have in here right now. So I'm going to take this, well, let's see, we'll take one of them, copy that, put it here, and we're going to call this one menu password recovery. Okay, and we'll figure out which help content it needs to go to later on. So this one will say password recovery, or let's see. We'll call it recover my login. And because we're going to do two pieces here, okay, the first one, do we need a note? Yeah, let's just get rid of the note, but leave the space for it. I don't know if there's going to be a note or not. We'll figure that out when we get here. Okay, so what I'm looking at so far is probably two buttons. Click here to recover my, type in, well, okay, so we want to say email. And first thing is, there's going to be two different headings here. Let's see how the headings look. The headings are like this. That's not going to be the ones I'm using. Username or email. Okay, we need a subheading. Blah, blah, blah. Where do I have some subheadings? I know I've used a million of these things everywhere. Menu heading. Some of these menus are more complex than others, so I actually had to create submenu heading. That's all I called it. Yay. Okay. So what I'm going to do is back up here, recover my login. The first one we're going to do is right here. I'm going to put in forgot my login. And then I'm going to create a second one here, and I'm going to say forgot my password. And okay, so if you forgot your login, you should have to type in an email address. And that's where we're heading with that. It's going to be a subsection of this, so we'll put this in, and I may want one of those there too. So, just doing a little bit of maintenance, a little bit of the way the layout looks and getting that in place. Okay, so autocomplete email, and that's going to be forgot email. I know, forgot email kind of implies email. Well, we could say recover by email. There we go. That makes more sense. Just trying to put some names that actually make sense. I'm going to look and see, make sure I haven't done anything like that in the naming. Okay, we're good to go. And then we're going to need a line that has some type of feedback response, and then we're going to need a button. So I'm going to move those up here to there, and one is going to be recover error text. Okay, we're good with the naming on that. And this one, first of all, we don't know what we're going to call it for a function yet. This particular one is going to be let's go with recover login. Recove. How about recover? Recover login, and finally the text. Recover login. You know what? I don't need that to be yellow. Or do I? Maybe I do. I'm going to leave it yellow for the moment. And then the last one is we're going to, from here, you know what? I'm going to make these all one. I'm going to give you two options on the same form. Recover login and recover password. Recover password. Now let's see how that looks. We don't need this line in between now because it's going to be all the same thing. We'll worry about what images show up on those shortly. And we do not need the rest of this. That's all duplicate. And now we won't need that. We want cover password and create my account. If they're trying to do that, then we're more likely to recover password. This particular one needs to close menus, which are all the menus. No, it needs to hide something, and we won't need any of that because that's not the process we're going to do. If we're recovering the password, then we need to hide this name right here, which is the section you're looking under, and we're going to show, we have functions for this. So I didn't have to rewrite the book on it. And we're going to show password recovery. So the first thing is if we want to click something down below the password recovery page, we should be able to get back to the login page. So if you've done your recovery and you're ready to go, then the next thing you're going to want is to go back to the menu page. So we're going to hide, and it's not going to be create my account. We're going to go back to the login. So we're going to hide this one, and it's my habit to always hide the thing that I'm getting rid of first so that it doesn't grow the page, and then I put the ones that you're going to load up second. So it's pretty good. I'm sure you'll find somewhere in my code that I didn't do it that way, but for the most part, I try to do them in that order because then I always get the item taken away from the page before I add a new item to it, so it doesn't shoot you down the page with a whole lot of stuff before it readjusts. Okay, so we're doing that, and in this particular case, we do want the menu login. We are going to use that image with it, and it's not going to say create my account. We're going to say back to login. Back to login, and one more spot here. That was on the icon for it, so then we'll do back to login. Also, this particular one does not need to be in yellow. This is just kind of a cancel on done type thing, so we'll do that. Okay, the other one, let's see, back to login. You got your recover password buttons. I don't think I need anything else there. And just to check where we are so far, we're going to jump in here and just kind of do a refresh. So, working on the recovery process, getting some of these account things out of the way. And so you have login, and oh, I forgot to hide it to begin with. That will help. So the first thing I want to do is this section right here. Notice I have the different menu items sections, and there's this little. There's two ways I can do it. I have, you know what? I have a class that hides it already, so I'll be changing these later on anyway. Class equals, and it's called WalkTheWeb -hide. Pretty straightforward. Okay. Oh, the other part. Okay, that should balance it back and forth to there. But there's another thing is in here. Find this everywhere. The trick is there's different sections here that I hide and show from different points in the code. So what I want to make sure I'm doing is I'm making sure that this part doesn't pop open when it shouldn't at different times. In these particular cases, I don't need it to show up. So I'm going to WalkTheWeb.hide. And we're going to put that one in there. And I'm going to copy and paste that because we're going to use it a few more times here. Did I just hit the wrong key again? Gosh. Okay, copy that. We're going to, this one's being shown here, but at the same time, when it gets shown, this one still doesn't need hide. And I just did something I said I try not to do. Let's put the hides first so that gets rid of things you're not supposed to see, and then the show things. We have this one here. This is during open login form, so I want to make sure that it's going to the login and not this section. Same thing for open register. We're making sure this is not showing. And if you're showing the register, notice all these other sections are hiding. I want to make sure, close menus. If profile is already hidden, then showing login, menu register. You know what? I'm going to just do a little safe precaution on that one and make sure we're not loading more than we need. I have a feeling that that's either going to have an issue with that, or we're going to see one of these other ones like logged in being an issue right there too, because if register is not logged. Okay, that one, close menus. Yeah, I gotcha. Okay, I'm good on that. Okay, so the next one, we're hiding it here. This is part of load user session. Okay, so we are going to make sure that it's also hidden here. And now we have the show and hide based on what we do there. And we have one more place. These ones aren't even being used right now. This is in our, it's in one of our scripts for loading other pieces. It's one of the things that are going to be plugins in the future. Okay, so checking through these. Now, instead of seeing both those forms at the same time, okay, this thing also, show on menu start. If I uncheck that, it doesn't have to show every time I do that. Okay, so right here we have login, create my account, forgot my password. Oh, I was going to change those words before I forget again to forget my password. On the login page, forget my password is going to be forget my login, because that covers both password and also I just noticed Forget my password, also recover password. I'll just say recover login because that means password and login name. Okay. And just going through some of this. Loading back up the page. Okay, we have login and we have forgot my login. If I click that, oh, I still show both headings. What did I miss? Recover my login and forget my login. That's good. Where did I leave something? So from there is the whole page. Recover my login and forgot my login. Well, that helps. I don't need to say it twice, obviously. So don't need to say this subheading thing anymore because we actually went with the one heading and put both buttons underneath it. So that should take care of that one. Let's just prove it. Get them back where they're supposed to be. We have login, we have forgot my login, and now we have recover login and recover password. We'll base it on their email that they type in. If you recover password, it's going to send to the default email on file. We'll have to check that. We'll say email doesn't match, or we can say, but email sent to password on file. So we can do that through the error and catch that. The other part is notice the height of this screen. I have a function that already cleans that up when we do that. So let's see, open registration form, copy file, find all. And what happens is I do this menu scroll and it automatically hits this function again. This particular one, I know what I should do is should hit this. You know what, we're gonna roll it into one of these. That's just easier. So since we already created them for login form, we'll just create one here and call it open recovery form. And this particular one is not going to show register. We're going to hide that. And we're going to show this form. And okay, so now all we need is open recovery form in our menu. Right. Open register form. See, that's what I was doing, was closing one, opening the other, but there's more pieces to it than just that. So we might as well make sure that we're getting it all. And that's WalkTheWeb. There we go. Open recovery form instead of register form. And then here we should be opening login form, which I bet is open login form right there. We'll just copy that. And instead of doing these couple steps, there we go, open login form, gets the whole process, make sure everything else is closed it's supposed to be, open that should be, no guesswork about what you're seeing at the time. Okay, so now just to make sure the buttons are working for the different pieces, and here we go, and we have a login, and forgot my login. Notice it's a smaller form, it didn't stretch it out to the top. That was part of the little scaling thing. And then we're going to type an email and we're going to click recover login or recover password based on that email address. So we're not going to send it to another email address. We're going to look to see if that email exists. We're going to do a couple checks and we're going to clean up the login process. So this is all getting ready. We're trying to get the whole process ready so that we can release this open source this month. If you haven't been watching, there's a couple videos, but one of the thing is I set up a CMS for creating 3D websites, including your scenes, your buildings, your things, and all the various parts. It's a 3D CMS, so you can actually create, build, edit them, and everything else without having to know how to program. But if you are a programmer, that's when it gets really cool, because I'm setting this up so that you can add plugins to it, and you can basically go in that whole direction, add your plugins, and Yeah, totally. You'll be able to create plugins and make money on them. So just giving you a little overhead. Right now I'm working on the login process to make sure that we're all clean and ready to go. And then I will, then we'll move on. We'll keep on going until we're ready to release it this month. And we're almost halfway through the month, so it'll be soon, in the next couple weeks. Okay, so let's see. Recover login. We want to write a process that allows us to recover the login. So what we're going to do is we're going to write two processes. One of them is recover login. Okay, here's all the forms that we have. And switch avatar menu. Let's see. Okay, open home page menu. Okay, I'm going to start right here because this is as good as any place. Later on, I'll go through and sort through what I have for the different organizing them so that they all fit together in the right places and put some notes in here and stuff. But before I do that, right now, this one is going to say recover login. And let's see if we already have that or not. I always double check every time I name something to make sure that I didn't like use it 12 times throughout the code. And so we didn't. We're going to set that there. And now we're going to find out, we're going to check this. We don't need anything to be passed in. And when you push that button on the menu for this particular one, which is recover login, this one is going to do this first function we're creating. There and here. Okay, so recover login. So the first thing we want to do is read in their email. I'm going to be passing this stuff to a function, but let's first check and see if, and my dget, if you're just catching up with me, dget is document.getElement by ID, kind of a shorthand note, dget. So okay, and if that dot value is not equal blank, we can put some more stuff down here later on. We can also check to see if they if it has certain values in it. For now, we're going to do, you know what, let's make sure the length is greater than, I guess you got to have at least 7 characters to even have an email, because it'd have to be something before the, and then the @ sign, and then at least two letters for a domain name, and then a period, and then an extension. It looks like it's got to be at least 7 characters, so I'm going to make it like 8 characters or greater. If you have a shorter name than that, I'll apologize right now and not care. Just kidding. Okay, copy that. Index of, I'm going to check to make sure that if you're telling me you've got an email address, then it at least has an @ sign is greater than -1. And I'm also going to check to make sure it has at least a period in it, because if you haven't done those things, that's like bare minimum check to know that you're even thinking about trying to do a email address. And so once it checks those items, what we're going to do is we're going to be passing this value into a procedure that we haven't written yet. So we're going to take this one step at a time. And you know what? I'm going to make this simple by copying some code from anywhere I can copy code. I do it because it avoids 2 things. First is it avoids me from basically doing typos, and the other part is it also makes sure that when I do something, it kind of comes out right the first time. I get the names of all the stuff that it's supposed to be doing all together. And just found a different error while I was doing that, so no, that's outside the function. I'm good. Okay, going back to my page, what I'm going to do is we're going to tell it to run an iframe, and We're going to pass in this email address here. We'll call that email. And down here, what I want to do, email, and I'm going to check, but I think there's a T email or something of that nature in our form. And then I'm going to tell it what button to push. In this case, I want to, it's going to be recover by email. How about recover account? Login. Recover login by email. Now, what it's going to do is it's actually going to email out their login to them, because I do not want to, I don't want to actually show them anything on the screen about that. Well, let's see, is there a benefit? Well, yeah, there is, of course, because I don't want you to type in an email address and all of a sudden get it to somebody else's email account. It has to match the account on record when you type it in. So basically, it's going to get emailed to their email account, and that's where they can find out their login. So we're going to create that whole process. It's going to be part of the users class, so the user form, and that is going to hit that part. We'll tell it what to do and to bring back a response after it finishes that part. And going through this, that's part of it. The other part is if they're not correct, then I want to return an error immediately to the page, telling them that they did not type in a correct email. So we're going to use this right here, and we'll say dget dot inner HTML, whoops, not inner glow, inner HTML equals, and let's make it not a valid email address. Okay, so that'll be our error that pops up on the page if they try to submit it without doing something else. We can even test that part. Notice what our qualifications were. So if we type something that, okay, forgot my password. If I type something that is missing some things, not a valid email address, good. I wanted to make sure it didn't run off the page or anything like that. So it tells us on the page, and if we do a valid email address, we're going to get a different error, but okay, and I say recover password, and of course it doesn't know where to go because email is not defined, so we are going to, that is, oh, it's request.email. So fix that one already, and this is what we're going to be passing into on the user form. So let's go to the user page. I don't need that site right now. Let's go to the iframes page for users, and here what I'm creating is delete permission. There's all kinds of buttons here. Down on the end here we have all these various buttons that do different things. I'm going to create one. We have register, so I want to be right below register, and I'm going to call this, well, let's make it match what I just told me I was going to call this, which is that name right there. And so we will put it here, there, and there. The top of the page, I'm going to, I'm just going to create a case right at the, well, I already have case for login and register. We'll be after those. Let's go here, case, and it'll be the same exact name that I just did. And break. Okay, so that sets it up there. The other thing is when I want to return it to another function after that it finishes doing it. So if there was a mistake, if there was a problem, or if the email was sent, whatever I do, I want a response that comes back and will let me tell it to the user. So right here, what I'm going to do is I'll pass back I can use the login response, invitee response. I know I created different ones. I could have just called it response and got them all. Very generic name. I could possibly do that later on. The idea is that it's going to look similar to this one, and what I like to do is I like to name it very similar to the one we already did. So in this case, where I named it here, and we're gonna put that there. Since I called it recover login, I'm gonna call it recover login complete and response. So now I can copy that, call it there, and here I'm going to be sending it to here. So recover login by email, it's going to recover login complete, and it's going to be, this value is where we'll put the login response based on our function. We'll drop it into this variable when we run the function. So that kind of gives us a full circular path. The other thing is it's called T-user email, so I want to make sure I'm using the correct form field here. Now it's going to pass the email in. It's going to do its recover email function, and then it's going to reply back here where, based on this response, we'll be able to pass it back to the user. In this case, what it'll be is all we're going to do is pass it back. The text that we sent back is just going to be just that. It's going to be one set of words or another. Either there was an error or it responded back that it was good. So that function is actually complete now. All we have to do is create our function on this page now. That says what we're going to do is, first of all, this is what we want it to pass it back to. So we're going to keep that piece in place. So it'll be login response is the text that we return back based on this function. So now we're going to call it, we're going to be consistent with the name of the button, and we're going to call the function that. We do a mixed case on these, so I'll rename it to that, and recover by email. And in here, what I'm going to pass is that to user email that we set. So we're passing the value back to this function. Now the next part is to take that function and create it in the user class. And we have TUsers class. Scroll this down. And I'm just going to put it right at the bottom here. Public function, and call it that. What we'll do is chop down this name to Z user email. I like using the Z character for all my internal parts. Then I always do a try catch around it. We'll improve on those and try to catch different types of errors later on, but that's an upgrade thing that I need to do and test out, so we'll catch all those later, but right now we send them to a function which we can do whatever we want within the function. Okay, so from here, this is globally part of the iframes function, and so I'm going to put that in here, and the other part is I'm going to create a variable for the Z response. Do I want response? See, I use, results. Okay, so response is fine. I just want to make sure I'm kind of consistent with the names that I use. Response equals blank, and then we're going to, at the end of this, return Z response. Okay, so response, there we go. Now from here, I'm going to check and see, first of all, if it's a valid email address. I might want that to be a separate function because I can see wanting to look it up an email address and check it more times than just this. So I'm going to also create that is as a separate function. We're just going to say is email valid. Is email exists. I want to say valid for another time because there's a chance I may need to, make sure people are checking their email and replying back that it's a valid email before it gets used to actually send something out or whatever. So there's going to be some email validation stuff. So in this case, I'm just going to make this email exists, function email exists. So that'll be a true false. We're going to say z found equals false, and then z found is going to be what we reply back with, and now we'll do z results equals WalkTheWeb iframes dash query, and in here what we're going to be checking for is select user ID. All I need to know is the user ID from users where I think it's just called email, which is about as simple as that gets. So in users, we're looking for email. Yep. What's that? Actually, yeah. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, so where email, I'm going to say like instead of is, but I'm not going to put any, well, no, because they could put in wildcards. Nope. Where email equals, because I'm not case sensitive, so I want to make sure they're putting in the exact thing the way it should be. And if I only expect one result, I always like to put limit one, even though you don't have to do that step. That's just my way of kind of limiting down the results in case, yeah, there's some things I'll do for SQL injection to scrub these things, and there's some pieces that are not seen here but will be heard. No. Okay, so the other thing is whenever I do something, I use this W table prefix. So the table prefix has to be here. Okay, from users, where that. Then for each z results as row. I know I didn't say 0, but I probably did that every single place where I've ever done it. Thank you. Okay, so if it brings back a row, it means it found it. I don't even need to type something else here other than z found equals true. Okay, because if there's results back, that means it found something and it had to have at least one row in it. So if the only thing it could find is where the email equals that particular item, and that just means they are a valid user. Do we or do we not allow the user to have more than one account with the same email address. Email has to be unique. I find that useful. The reason is everybody has more than one email account. If you need a second person, create another email account. So that's not exactly a deal breaker, but at the same time, by keeping the email address unique in the database, that pretty much makes sure that there's a 1-to-1 ratio of each email address to user. That way we're only finding one and we don't have to worry about returning multiple results and then trying to figure out which one they are. That wouldn't exist. You couldn't recover your logins, so it makes more sense to do it this way. So with that said, let's jump to here. And now for this recover email process, the first thing is if email exists, which is true, then I'm going to want to do something. Because if it doesn't, I'm going to tell them the response, email's not found. Oops. One L in email not found. And I know if I'm going to do caps. If I'm not, I'm not. Okay. Email address. I know I don't have to say the word address. It's kind of redundant nowadays, but I did it anyway. Okay, so then email exists here, and this particular part, what it's going to do is it's going to check and see. Actually, since we already know the email address exists in the database, what we're going to do is we're going to... let's see. I want to know the user ID based on that email address. We're going to write another function for that, just because I have a feeling we may need to use it more time than this. So we're going to say get username. Username is the login. Yes. So get username by email. Pass in the email address, and we're going to make this, instead of z found, we're going to call it z username. I don't need caps. My local variables, I try not to use caps. I use them for function names and stuff. It really helps them stand out in between two different things. So I see, now that I'm doing this, I could have checked to see if the username exists by the email address, and just because it was there, it would have automatically validated it and everything all at once. But it's okay to run two different queries because, well, I could check either way. I could say get username by email address, and you pass in the email address, and if you get a, I could do that. I'm going to leave this other function here, but I'm actually going to do it this way. Yeah, it makes more sense. We're going to do it. We're only going to do one database call, but by username, we're going to limit the rows to 1. And when it finds it, copy, we're going to send it back to the user. And right here, the only difference between these functions is this particular one. I'm going to bring back the username and user ID both. Okay, so username is at row. And I should be able to do it that way. I believe that's how I was doing them. Make sure I wasn't doing the other notation. There's two different notations to use, and I should have been using, yeah, I've got that notation. That's fine. Okay, so we have username row, username, we're bringing that back. And basically from this we get, now we can just go, oops, the username equals, and we're going to run this function. The reason is, in my email, I want to know what the username is so I can tell them. So since I'm already running a thing to the database anyway, then it makes a lot more sense to go ahead and do it this way. And now we're just going to have to check and see username. Let's see. If it's not empty and is set. That means we've got some type of username returned from the database. It's not blank from that other query. Then it's going to run this process, which is going to be do the email and get it out to the people. And right now, what I realize is I don't have it set up to actually have an email address or an email server settings anywhere. So I'm going to have to go through and do a bunch of that stuff. Tell you what, I've got a couple other things I need to do on the side here. If you're just joining us, basically I'm writing a recovery process for an email. We've actually created the install so that we can actually create this whole stuff from scratch. Let's test how far we've gotten, just so that we can see if we've recovered the email address. Right here, let me say Z response. This is going to be login sent to email address. So on a valid trip, it's going to go there. Let's make sure the color of this message is green, just because we can. Okay, so I'm going to run it to there. We're not actually sending the email yet, but that's going to be next. I'm going to just make sure that we actually have this whole process in here. Okay, so I come in here. I go, ooh, I forgot my login. I click the button, and I type in a valid email address. And I don't know why it's not prompting with an email. We should have the email prompting based on the stuff. Let's see. And then from there, okay, it didn't know how to post that. We have a 500 in that page. So let's fix that real quick. What did I miss? That one's working. This page here. What did I miss? Okay, so let's check our log. Is here. And we got a few things. Let's see what we're dealing with. Oh, that's something else. I'll worry about that later. Get username by email. Oh, well, that helps. I already know what it is. So when I do get username by email, I forgot to name the class, which happens to be this class that we're in. So now it would run that one, and we should be able to get to the full part of that. Oh, one more thing I'm going to double check, just because when we do menu and we're recovering this email address right here, autocomplete email. I don't think it's any different than that. Autocomplete email. Okay, autocomplete should have allowed this one to fill in, but since it didn't, I'm not going to worry too much about it. Just wanted to peek at that and make sure I at least typed it right. If it's their issue, it's their issue. If it's mine, it's mine. Maybe because I've never typed a correct one in here yet. So if I type that, recovered, and okay, iForm, let's see, unexpected token at JSON. Oh, it's expecting JSON back as a response? No, that's not what I needed it to be. Let's see. I can fix that real quick. This login response comes from here. I pass back the words. And there it's plain text inside of a single quote. Ooh, that could be my problem right there. And then I JSON parse it, which I don't need to JSON parse it because I'm not doing that to it to begin with. The login response, it's going to have single quotes around it, and I just added some text that has single quotes. So if I do slash double quote instead, I don't have to do anything else tricky. So I'm going to do that in my answer just so that it passes it all the way back. And like I said, just going through testing the different pieces. Forgot this. Additional at WalkTheWeb.com. Recover login and login sent to email address. Okay, so that clears that process all the way through there. And that pretty much gets us through that part. The next part I have to do is I have to set up some stuff so that I have a place where the user can do some settings, including an email server, so they know what their email server is. Yeah, we're going to have to do that so that they can launch something to an email server and identify which email server they're going to send from. So we'll have to play around with that a little bit and see if we can't get something in place. I just like to have a couple options with that. So let's see. Okay. That should conclude getting through that process. Like I say, I'm going to do a PHP mail item right here. That'll take me through the rest of it, but I got to configure some stuff. So let's go ahead and call that a day on this piece, and I want to thank everybody for joining me. Okay, and I will be on again tomorrow, so have a good evening, and I will see you tomorrow.